Now, Jimmy, the first thing is, your only loss came very early in your career. You also fought for Bellator MMA and WSOF. So, how did you get into MMA, and who was your inspiration to get into the sport?
I've always been the martial arts. I've been training Tiger Strongman since I was a kid. So, you learn as a martial artist, what I mean, and especially Tiger Strongman, is that competing helps you get better, and it takes you to the next level. So I kind of got into a couple kickboxing matches when I was young and wanted to take it further. And when I turned 18, I started doing amateur MMA, and just one thing led to another. So it's kind of like teaching's always been my first passion, which I tell people, but second is obviously fighting, and I want to see how far I can take it, and how far I could go with it.
All right, outstanding. And your first experience with UFC came during TUF 14. So, what was the experience like, and what was your greatest takeaway from the season?
I learned a lot about myself. I obviously didn't get into the house, but I learned a lot about myself. I didn't train correctly for that fight. It was a quite interesting experience to go there and not have your coaches or your friends or family. It was really really interesting. So you learn a lot about yourself, and I was kind of happy. I didn't make it, and it was able for me to get a lot more experience before I got the call again for UFC.
All right, great. And going into the previous fight that you had with Uriah Faber, you have been one of the most awkward fighters to fight against at 135, defeating the likes of Brimage and Uri Alcantara. So going into UFC 203, a lot of names were thrown at you before finalizing on Faber. Can you tell us why the other fighters or why the other fights didn't materialize?
Well, it was again off for Brian Caraway for me, which is like the second time, and he didn't want to take the fight, so they had four other names, and at the top of the list was Uriah Faber. So, it's either Uriah Faber or these other guys they're giving me. I'm like, I want the top person, and so once that happened, I was hoping that Faber was going to take it, and from there he did take it, and I was happy because Sean Shelby went to me and was like, Sean Shelby went to me and was like, if Caraway doesn't take it, I have four other names. Who do you want? And Uriah's number two at the time. He was a well-known fighter. He's been around forever. I'm like, obviously, I want to fight him. If I'm going to get the chance to fight, I want to fight him.
Right.
And be able to, hopefully, beat him, obviously, and take myself further. So,
Right.
and that's what happened. I trained my butt off, and I was really happy with the outcome. And, I've been in before the UFC where people have denied me to fight, and there's been like seven fight, like my last couple fights before I got in the UFC, they changed my guy like 6-7 times,
Right.
and it's happened. I understand, but in the UFC, I wouldn't think that would happen, but it happens now too, and it's kind of surprising, but it is what it is. You got to, there's nothing you could do about it. If someone doesn't want to fight me, they don't want to fight me. That's it. So it's funny in a way, and I just, I let it be. I was happy Uriah took it. I was grateful, and it was a great win in my career.
Right. So before we talk about Uriah, did Sean Shelby or Joe Silva give you a reason why someone like Brian Caraway, who was coming off a victory, would refuse to take off a
The
fight?
reason he's scared. He's scared. That's it. There's no other reason. If someone doesn't want to take a fight, they're scared. You know what I mean? And Faber said it best. I'm a fighter. I'm not going to say no to anybody. You know what I mean? I go in there, I fight, and I was honored that he took the fight. It was great, and people won't take fights because they're scared. That's what it is. That's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? A lot of times people won't take fights, or they won't take fights because it's not, it's a dangerous fight, and if he beats, and it's not gonna help. But I don't know. It's one of those cases where it's like a win. It's like a win. It's like a win or lose. Like they'll take the fight or not. You know what I mean? Like in case like Faber had nothing to gain, and I had so much to gain. Caraway, the same thing. Didn't have anything to gain. Plus, he knew I was a tough opponent. So, that's kind of what happened. And you can't say anything from. On one hand, I can't say anything about it. On the other hand, though, when you get up in that top five, you kind of have to defend your spot. Right. So if there's people that are gonna want to fight, like if you're ranked 1 or 2 or 3, you're gonna have to fight guys that are not below you. You know what I mean? It's gonna happen. Like TJ's in that state where he was a champ, and now he wants to fight for the title again. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's like one of those things you don't. How can I say? You don't know what's going to happen, and when you're in the top 5, you kind of have to defend your spot, I guess, in a way too. as well. They usually, when people fight, usually fight someone that's off a win, not off a loss. So it's going to be quite interesting to find out what's going to happen next. Who's going to be the next person I'm going to fight? Who's going to match up in the 135? Lineker just won a big fight. TJ just won. Rafael Santos, I don't know who he's going to fight. Maybe it makes sense for Faber and him fight, maybe. But you got 1, you got 3, which is Lineker. You got 4 was Caraway, who's off a win, and then you got me. So it's interesting. You also have Cody, who's right behind me, and I think Cody and Cruz might fight because Cruz really wants that fight, and Cody's on a hype train. So you really, you don't know.
Right. So what happened was I talked to Faber just before your UFC 203 fight, and even he said that he was aware about how this fight was awkward for himself and the other fighters as well. Now, with the other names that were given to you, do you think a fight with Faber was the best for you at that point going into UFC 203?
For me or for him?
For you.
For me, yeah, obviously. I had so much to gain. He's number 2. He's been around forever. Everybody knows him. I had a lot to gain. I'm a guy that, I'm a martial artist at the end. I don't really talk a lot of smack. I just, I do my talk in the cage. So I had so much to gain, and he had everything to lose. But, that's the risk, I guess you say, when you fight, and that happens. My goal is to climb up and keep climbing. Hopefully the next person will help climb up because I obviously want to fight and face the champ.
Right. And when I talked to Faber, he was also he did a lot of research on you and how you mix things up and throw a lot of combinations and stuff. So one of the things that we kind of talked about was how he was on point with you during your fight, mixing things up and throwing excellent combinations. Now, what surprised you the most about the fight and your opponent?
What surprised me most is, I got kicked in the balls. I got poked in the eye. That kind of sucked. But nothing else really surprised me. I trained 2 months to fight him, so I wasn't surprised. I mean, I tell you this: I was starstruck in that first round. I'm like, holy shit, I'm fighting Faber. I mean, growing up in the sport, I grew up, and I'm like, this is a guy I looked up to in a way. He's he's in my weight class. He's the count for a quick kid. He's got great swag to him. So I was like, oh my god, I'm fighting this guy. So the first round was a little starstruck, and then after that, I kept sticking to my game plan, sticking to what I was going to do, and everything ended up going well. It was very effective on everything I needed to do, and it was an interesting fight. I think a lot of people wanted me. A lot of people always want to see that slugfest, but what happens when you have 2 fighters that are really good? It's not always going to be like that. It's going to be technical, just like Lineker and Dotson.
Right.
And you're not going to get that all the time, and that's what happened. But I was also was happy. I was upset in the beginning that I didn't get the knockout, but then my coach goes to me, what if you did knock him out? Everybody would have said it was a lucky fight. But then you fought in 3 rounds. All 3 judges had 30-27. You won all 3 rounds. There's no fluke in that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because my coach is an unbelievable coach. And at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? There's no fluke. I didn't get lucky. You know what I mean? I won all 3 rounds in that fight. So it was great.
Right. Did you think, Raya was a little apprehensive about throwing whatever he had? Because going into the fight, you were a high volume striker and you had the arsenal in your, combinations where you threw a lot of combinations, mixing up things with your leg kicks. So, did you think Uriah was a little apprehensive during the fight itself?
I think, I think he just didn't know how to get in. He's never fought someone, I guess, like me, who's very experienced and very, I think at a different level. You know what I mean? So he's never fought that. So it's like, plus I'm training for him, so I know everything he's going to throw at me. So I think it was hard for him to get in. He was having a hard time. When he did get in, I think he felt my power and he got back out. I was surprised he didn't wrestle me a lot. I was waiting for a lot of wrestling, especially in that first round. He didn't do it, which is, it's okay with me. I'm not going to say anything. I did train a lot for it, though. I was waiting for all those takedowns and all that. Right. I was waiting for that right hand. He didn't really throw that right hand, so I was a little surprised about it. But I guess it's hard. I wouldn't want to fight me.
Right.
So I don't know what to say.
Right. So the other thing that we discussed, as in Uriah and I before the fight, was how he would use his takedowns, he would use his wrestling to kind of get the upper hand. But Hugh defended. It was a little difficult because he tried taking you down a couple of times, maybe once or twice, but not more than that. But the thing that surprised me was he did not attempt as many takedowns as he would have liked. he
Me too.
wasn't.
Surprised me. We're both surprised. Look at that. We're
Right.
both surprised. I thought he would take me down more, and he did it. And that's really it. There's nothing else I can say about that. You don't know what he's going on in his head. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say. People ask me stuff. I don't know what's going on. I just thought this, and I thought this, and I thought that. And, it wasn't the outcome of that, and it is what it is. It's people always forget. Fight is not physical; it's mental.
Right.
And it's very, very mental. So, if your mental not there, if you're scared, or if you're like, holy shit, you're overwhelmed in person, it's what's going to happen. You're going to see a different fight.
Right. And now, since you defeated Faber, now you have the likes of TJ Dillashaw, you have Cody Garbrandt, you have Lineker and Dodson, as you said. Who do you think would be your next matchup? Who do you want to face next after your win with Faber?
I just want to face whoever's going to give me a title shot. You know what I mean? I think Cruz and Cody are going to fight. Cruz wants it. Cody, I heard he was talking about it, and they're trying to set something up. So I just want to fight whoever's going to give me a title shot. To be honest, that's it. If they asked me right now to fight Cruz in December, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'll be ready for it. Someone asked me that, like, are you willing for it? I'm like, yeah, I'm willing for a title shot. I mean, I've been, that's what I want. It's my goal. So, but I can't really say much more. I mean, like, it's kind of out of my hands, and you kind of got to see where the cards lie.
Right. And now, since you've kind of made yourself into the top 10, you got yourself into the top 10 of the rankings. So what did you think of the recent fight between Lineker and Dodson? Because that was one fight where, people thought if Dodson would get the best of Lineker, he would be right behind Cody Garbrandt and getting a title shot with Dominic Cruz.
I don't know where Lineker stands now. The fight is, I think Lineker won. Dodson was running the whole time, and it's kind of hard to fight someone when they're running. They're not going to stay there and throw.
Right.
And I don't know. I just felt like he won. He had that whole control of the cage. They didn't really mix it up. He went for takedown attempts. Lineker stopped him. I feel like he had the fight the whole time. And I think now it's kind of he's in the same shoes. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going to throw, what they're going to match up. I know for a fact on every Tuesday they have their meeting, they sit down, they figure out what the next matchups are. So I'm just being patiently and waiting. I'm back training, so I'm excited to be back training. I had to take 2 weeks off because of the eye, and I'm just looking forward, to see what's next.
Right, we're gonna get back to your eye. So you also previously talked about fighting in Brazil and how you might not want to go down there again. So can you tell us what happened exactly during your fight against Munoz before your fight with Faber?
Was Pedro? I mean, the fight was a simple. Brazil. We went there. My family. It was. They just felt a little uncomfortable. The crowd was really rowdy and it got really aggressive and dangerous. They left early, and it's a different place. It's a third world country, and there's a lot of criminal stuff. And you hear about some fighters get robbed and stuff. And I just it was a fun time. Will I go back to visit? Yeah. Will I go back to fight? No, I don't want to. Especially the fact that they're training, you're going to die the whole time while I'm fighting, and before the fight and after the fight, that's fine. I did my one in Brazil. I'm done.
Right. Now, coming back to your eye poke, as you said. Now, one of the noteworthy things during the fight was the unintentional eye poke. So, you also said that in the days leading after the fight, it was difficult and it was still giving you problems. Now, is it still the same case now, after a couple of weeks since the fight has unfolded?
No, it's better now. I can see. In the fight, I lost my vision in that third round, and it was hard to finish the fight, especially if you want to do stuff and you're missing your dominant eye, because I'm a righty and my right eye is dominant. So it's better now. I'm back training. I just had to take some rest off because they gave me drops and basically blurred my vision and all that. Now that I'm back, I'm actually going to get my doctors know tomorrow, get all cleared, and see what they get me and go from there.
All right. So earlier today, the other thing that I kind of want to stress about, and this is for the Indian MMA fighters who are trying to kind of understand what the weight cutting scene is like. Earlier today I talked to Roxanne Modafferi, who recently fought on Invicta FC 19, and we kind of talked about the weight cut issues, where she said she drops about 15 pounds to make weight at 125. So can you tell us your experience about dropping weight to come down to 135 and fight in the bantamweight division?
Yeah, nothing. I feel great every time I drop weight. It's a great cut. It's a good time. Well, it's never a good time, but it went well. And as long as you eat right, you diet well, and you train hard, you're fine. But I know some people diet late. Some people don't do it. I diet all the time. You know what I mean? So uh, I enjoy myself on the weekends or if I'm on a vacation, obviously. But besides that, I'm always eating healthy and taking care of myself. You know what I mean? And, if you don't do that, it's gonna affect your weight cut and all that.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. Just eat right, train, and you'll be fine, and the weight cut will be easy.
Right. Now, going into the fight week, how much exactly do you drop to come down to 135? Do you walk at 145? Do you walk at 150? What exactly is the weight that you cut going into the fight week?
I usually cut like I don't know. I like down at 145, cut like 8 pounds. You know what I mean?
Right.
45, like 46, 8 pounds or so, and that's pretty much it. A little. We always overhydrate, dehydrate a little bit, so obviously I'm a little heavier with water, but that's pretty much it.
All right. Now, the other thing that is it's kind of interesting, even when you take the Indian MMA scene into consideration, is zeroing down on that exact gym where you kind of amplify your strengths. So, how do you go on to prepare for a fighter like, for example, Uriah Faber, where we know that you're a high volume striker and throw a lot of good combinations, but at the same time Uriah Faber would want to take you down. So did you incorporate all of those within your training camp, or did you get
Well,
someone
I,
else?
I don't think you understand. A lot of people understand. Like, I'm a martial artist at the end of the day. I'm not a wrestler that went MMA or a striker that went MMA. I'm a martial artist, so we practice everything. I don't just here and practice just my kickboxing. I don't just practice my grappling. I practice everything. You know what I mean? So I'm always working on everything and getting it better. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to perform and beat someone that's skillful like Uriah Faber in front of me. So I'm always practicing everything. You know what I mean? I'm always trying to get better and better so I could be at that next level. So at the end of the day, I'm always prepared with that. And then, you find out who you're fighting. You get people that kind of fight like them or do the things they do, and that's how you prepare for someone. That's how
Right.
every fighter prepares for someone.
Right. Now, a couple of other fighters, came out and said, what, we don't spar usually during the fight week. Is that the same case with you? Do you spar, hard spar? As I mean, do you throw a lot of things that so you've had a lot of fighters who got injured during the fight week while hard sparring. So do you do the exact same thing, or do you take things lightly during the fight week? How does that go
Um,
about?
well, the fight week, yeah. I mean, some people are training super hard. I just kind of train to get a sweat going and just kind of drill and stuff. I don't try to go crazy. And almost hit this girl. She's not paying attention. Sorry. I don't like. Some people go hard all the time spar. I don't believe you have to go hard. When I don't have a fight, I barely spar. I mean, I spar, I drill, but I don't like. We don't go hard. There's no need to go hard and get hit in the head like that all the time. End up being punch drunk. I think a lot of people do that. I think at the end of the day, you got to train and you can drill a lot. It's great. You know what I mean? You don't have to go hard all the time. And the week of the fight, I just drill. You know what I mean? I drill. I just work, blocking and counter and stuff, catching and counter, just simple stuff like that. Even like working out wise, not going crazy, just hitting the pads and just getting sweat going the week of the fight. Before then, all the training's done then. I mean, how much more shape you're gonna get in the
Right.
week of the fight? How hard can you really go and get in better shape? You can't, you know. So with that said, yeah, we spar, and when we spar, we go light. When we have a fight coming up, we'll pick it up a little bit, go hard. And the week of the fight is just really just getting sweat going and drilling.
Right. Now I have two last questions for you. One was after your fight with Uriah, when your name was announced as the winner, because a lot of fans, kind of saw the result coming because you have been dominant throughout the fight. So after getting a unanimous decision victory over someone like Uriah Faber, what was your first thought? What was the first thing that went through your mind?
I can't believe I won. It's an unbelievable experience. Next thought was I need to get my eye checked out. I can't see out of it.
Right.
And those were the two things going through my head. Like, oh my God, it's surreal. And oh my God, I need to get my eye checked. I don't want to lose my vision.
Right. So the final question is, do you have any message for your fans in India? Because I've received The reason why I wanted to get this interview done, because I've received a lot of messages from the fans in India saying, "Hey, so when can we hear from Jimmie Rivera?" Because he just won against one of the perennial title contenders since the last 6-7 years in UFC in the other promotions. So, do you have any message for your fans in India?
Yeah. Obviously, first, always thank you. Always being a fan and being supportive. That's one of the biggest things. I think every fan's very important. People message me on Facebook or Instagram, and they're like, "Holy shit, he messaged me back." I won't be able to do it right away because I'm very busy with. I'm always training. I have a school that I teach from 4 to 10. I'm always busy with my school, and I have my personal life. So it's really busy. Obviously, this interview. I've been doing a whole bunch of things. I'm headed into my school right now into the city. So it's always busy. But if you message me as soon as I can, I'll get back to you and say thank you or whatever it is. Or and it happens all the time. And people are like, holy shit, you messaged me back. I'm like, yeah, every fan's important. So obviously, thank you so much for being a fan and thank you for doing the interview.
All right, outstanding. Now, before we leave did you hear from Sean Shelby regarding your next fight? You still haven't, I'm guessing.
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit. What did you say?
No, so before we leave you, I just wanted to know, did you hear from Sean Shelby regarding your next fight?
No, I called him twice already. Actually, I called him once. Another time I texted him and nothing yet. He said it's kind of too early. I said no problem. So, I'm not going to keep, he's a busy guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And I'm just going to kind of, basically wait it out and see what happens. If I hear from him this week or next week and go from there. I think that's where it's at right now. This was a huge fight over this weekend. I think he was waiting for this fight to be done to kind of figure out who to match up and how to take everything to the next. I mean, he's got big shoes. He's got 6 guys. Actually, well, he's got. I think it's, to me it's 5 guys. You got Cody, who's on a winning streak. You got myself. That's 2. You got Caraway. You got Lineker. You got Dillashaw, and then you got 6 guys. Yeah, Cruz. So you got these 6 guys. How are they going to pair them up? Who's going to fight who? So you're kind of waiting for there. Does it make sense? I think Cody and Cruz. I think that's something that's already in the works. But does it make sense for me to fight Caraway because I'm 5-4? Does it make sense for Lineker to fight Dillashaw because that's 3-1? Like you don't really know. You know what I mean? You don't know how they're going to do it. So I'm just going to kind of wait and sit back, keep training, and stay in shape, and wait to sit back what's going to happen.
Right. So, since you brought that up, now that Cody and Cruz are likely to fight next for the title, and you have 3 or 4 guys who are still in the top 5 and have are continuing on a winning streak, who would you want to fight next? Just because after finishing a guy like Faber, after having a victory over a guy like Faber, who's a veteran and who is a perennial title contender, who would you want to fight next in the bantamweight division?
Caraway or Lineker or Dillashaw, either one of them. They're ahead in front of me. Either one of them I wouldn't mind fighting.
All right, outstanding. Thank you, Jimmy, for talking to us. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it. And thank you again to all the fans.
All right, outstanding. Thank you once again. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.